Well, it's December the 13th. It's quarter to 9 p.m. And yes, you're seeing this right. I have the young, about 3-month-old Jersey bull calf, the one I'm not going to castrate, in the house. Yes, folks, in the house. How many homesteaders bring a calf in their house? Well, I do. We've been sitting at anywhere from minus 18 Celsius to minus 40 since about the 22nd of December, with a 2-day warm spell about 4 days ago that went to a high of minus 8 in the daytime and went to minus 27 overnight. 60-mile-an-hour wind, 50-mile-an-hour winds. So you can see what the real chill factor is. The barn's been running about 36 to 38 in the daytime, and by night it's been running around 22. The water dishes ice over a little bit overnight, but nothing terribly. But this young Jersey has not been doing well. He got separated from the... Well, first let me back up for a second. All the young calves are kept in the barn at night, and I turn them loose in the daytime. And this guy here, he somehow wandered off down to the creek by himself, and I couldn't find him. And I spent till 2 o'clock in the morning looking for him, night before last. And he was bedded down in the snow under some spruce trees. And he stood up when he seen me, and he walked really slowly over to me, and I led him back up to the barn. I put him in the barn last night, and I gave him a penicillin injection, because you could tell that he wasn't himself. And this morning I went down to feed and check on him, and he wasn't doing good at all. He was very limp. He ate his corn and his medicated calf starter, but very, very sluggishly. And I tried to lift him in the back of my truck, and I couldn't, not with my back. He's about 200 and some pounds. I've got him covered in blankets in the house here with some hay and some nice warm milk. Been giving him. He's been drinking it, but he's been sleeping a lot. He's got about 600 milligrams of penicillin in him right now, because he's got a little bit of a wheeze to his breathing. And he tries to stand up, but he can't get up. And as you folks know, if you've watched my other videos, I've lost 2 calves this winter due to the extreme cold and then extreme warm in the fall, in November. And bad feed. I had Cargill calf starter that was rancid, and they took ill. I'm hoping this guy's going to bounce back, because like I say, you guys know I want to keep this guy for the breeder for that limo heifer that I have. They're both about the same age. I think the limo heifer is about 2 weeks older than this Jersey. And so I felt it was a little too chilly down the barn for him, and getting stepped on by the other young calves, and I didn't want to separate him into another pen where he would be by himself and get to be too cold. And the other young calves were just stepping all over him and eating his hay in front of him and basically stuff like that. So he's got some Blue Ridge calf milk replacer. He hasn't had milk now for a month and a half or so. I have him tethered so that if he does get up, he's not going to be a bull on the loose in the house and take out the fireplace or whatever. And he hasn't been dehorned or nothing, so he's going to have horns, and he's going to be a breeder. And I just have him tucked in behind the wood pile here and other junk. My house is like a workshop, so what's with a calf, you know? Not unusual for me to have a calf in the house. I've had newborns where the cow has dropped the calf in the middle of February when it's 40 below, and I brought them in the house for the first week and put them out during the day several times. And I've had young ones in the house in the past that have come down ill, just like this guy has. So he stopped eating now and he's taking a rest. I guess he's a little on the weak side. But I don't know why he wandered off from the rest of them yet during the day before yesterday. Usually they all stick together, and when I go down to feed them around 4 o'clock, I put them in the barn, and I don't put them out till noon when it's cold like this. And they're only out for a few hours. But for some reason he wandered down that steep bank down to the creek, and he laid down there, and I guess he got cold and didn't want to move from there. But when he seen me, he started coming towards me. So I'm hoping he'll pull through and straighten out, but only time will tell. That's one thing on a homestead, especially with the amount of animals that I raise. You experience a lot more death, especially dealing with calves that you get a day or two old from dairy farmers. It's costly to raise them because you got to have them on milk replacer, and you got to keep giving them injections of colostrum because they're not getting it from the mother. And I also give it to them in powder form mixed in their milk in the 500 milligram or the 1,000 milligram doses. The 500 milligram dose is $20, and the 1,000 milligram dose is $42 per dose. You notice how black he's come around his face. That's just come out of the last few weeks. He's got some black around his face, so I'm taking that he's got some limo in him as well. You see around his eyes and down the sides of his face there, he's got a lot of black hair. But time will only tell what happens. Biggest thing is to jump on them right away. As soon as you know there's something wrong, get penicillin into them, get injections for respiration into them, and it's just a crapshoot whether they pull out. I've had them pull out and up walking around, and 2 weeks later they all of a sudden drop dead. They're fine one night when you're feeding them, they're up and they're bouncing around, and you go down the next morning and they're dead as a doornail. So it's been a bad year. Well, 2017 anyway. I say I've had a few losses this year, and many years I don't have any losses at all. Several years in a row. But we get a year like this where it's extreme cold for days and days on end, and then it warms up, very humid, and then for a day or two, and then right back into this deep freeze. And you know that you don't want to keep the barn too warm at night for them because they get a chill when they go out in the morning. So the barn is only heated by the animals in the barn. And I do have a propane heater down there, furnace in the barn that I can turn on if it gets extremely cold inside. But I don't like to use it because, like I say, they get too warm and then they get a chill if it, gets a draft in there, or they go outside in the daytime. You can't keep them in all the time. They need their exercise. If you leave them locked in all the time, they basically just about tear the barn apart and tear you apart when you go down to feed them. Yeah, that's the turkey cooker there, because I just cooked another turkey day before yesterday and brought it to the Salvation Army. 22-pound turkey done in 2 hours. It's an infrared cooker. Totally safe to use indoors. That's heat trace there because I've been trying to get the water line to the barn thawed out. That copper one you see there is one I fished down the line to thaw it out. It's 400 watts, and then that red one there, it's 8 watts per foot compared to what I have installed here at the house underneath the mobile home. I have 3 watts per foot at the barns and up the house here, but that's 8 watts per foot. So anyway, that's what's happening here on this cold minus 27 degrees Celsius winter night. And we're supposed to have a break in this cold by next Wednesday or Thursday. We're supposed to have about 5 days around between -5 and -8 during the day and -27 at night. We just had a huge snowstorm here with about 10 inches of snow and 50-mile-an-hour winds, drifting up to 4 feet high. I spent 5 hours plowing the driveway out. As you guys may know, that my driveway just from the road to the house is 1,200 feet, and then it's another 700-800 feet to the barn and the root cellar. So that's what's happening. I know I haven't uploaded many videos, but I get discouraged because the views are so low. But anyway, if you would like to donate to help feed families in need, please join my Patreon or drop a donation into my PayPal link that's in the description of every video. And I'm trying to work towards getting pigs added to the homestead here this spring, along with more new baby calves. I stopped taking them for the winter because it's too hard mixing milk replacer for them, getting it down to them and keeping it warm enough when they're just a few days old. As soon as it gets cold, they won't drink it. And with the brutal cold we've been having, I basically cut back picking up calves until maybe it warms up sometime in March. But even in March, we're known to have 30 below zero. but more or less around 20. So anyway, take care, and we'll get back at you again later.